Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. My name is Ryan Linkletter, and we're back with another mock draft video today for the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are coming off a rough 2024 season. Head coach Matt Eberflus is gone. Caleb Williams looked absolutely brutal and looked like he regressed from college last season for the Bears. The Bears' interior offensive line struggled last year defensively. They had some small holes in the defense that caused a lot of big issues towards the end of the year after they lost Eberflus. I think the Bears are in for a much better 2025. They've already started off on the right foot, adding Ben Johnson as head coach. They added Joe Thuney from the Chiefs. They added Jonah Jackson. They added Drew Dahlman as well. That interior offensive line went from probably bottom 3 in the NFL to top 10 in the NFL right away with those 3 additions. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they went out and added Grady Jarrett at defensive tackle. Really good long time Atlanta Falcon, should be very good in the interior for the Bears, which they really struggled at last year. They had a Dio Odebingo at edge rusher as well, should be a great guy alongside Montez Sweat on the outside for the Bears. Now they do have some smaller needs right now. They have needs at running back. DeAndre Swift, not the most efficient guy in the NFL. I think Ben Johnson is looking for a bruiser to go along with him like he had with David Montgomery in Detroit. As far as the other positions go, safety is one that I look at. Kevin Byard's getting up there in age. Jaquan Brisker, his contract is going to be expiring here shortly. I think if they go at a safety over the top, I think it'd be a great move for the Bears. I think cornerback depth is another thing that they could address in this draft as well if it falls to them. And I think as far as the wide receiver position goes, they're probably going to be very light in addressing high draft capital in that. They might get a guy to fall to them there at 10, but ultimately I think that with the Rome Odunze pick and a good chance Keenan Allen returns in 2025, I think the Bears are going to stay put. They did add Zacchaeus this offseason too. So ultimately, the Bears have some smaller needs. They have a pretty good roster, new first-year head coach. Let's hop right into the draft and see if we can improve this Bears roster. All right, let's hop right into this mock draft here for the Chicago Bears. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, I've talked about some of the needs that they do need heading into this draft, and the way this thing shakes out is very interesting. You're going to see the Raiders take Genty at 6. Obviously, if Genty falls to the Bears at 10, I think the Chicago Bears wind up taking him in that slot. Now, according to this draft, that's not going to happen. To be honest, I think it's very naive to think the Raiders, who have a massive hole at running back, aren't going to address it at pick 6 with Genty there, meaning the Chicago Bears would either have to trade up to go get him, or they're going to have to hope the Raiders don't pick him at 6, and that leaves them there with Ted McMillan, who I think Ted McMillan would be a great option for them at receiver, but they did go Rome Odunze in the first round last year. I think Malachi Starks, another great player, but at 10, this might not be a great position to draft him. And then that leaves some other players here that I think that are going to be in the mix for the Bears. Kenneth Grant is a sneaky pick for the Chicago Bears to make the top 10. Great run defender, really good pass rusher from the interior. But the one player that I think the Bears are going to reach on, and the reason why I think they're going to reach on him, and it's Omarion Hampton. I think Hampton is the clear second best running back in this class. He's overall a really good player. He's a bruising type running back. He's almost similar to a faster David Montgomery to what Ben Johnson had for Detroit. And this is why I think they're going to reach on him just a little bit. You take a look at the side over here. You're going to see the Dallas Cowboys right at 12 over here looking to try to get a running back. We know they added Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams. I'd be surprised if they roll those two out as their starting running backs next year. If the Bears pass on a running back at 12, the Cowboys are either taking a running back at 12 or going wide receiver. I don't know if the Bears want to take that risk and potentially wait into the second round. I don't know if the talent gap, I think Ted McMillan's a great player and above all these players, but like I said, the Rome Odunze factor is there for where they drafted him. I think the Bears are definitely in contention to trade back, but I think they go and get Hampton and establish their elite running back in Chicago, and that pushes DeAndre Swift back. Now, the second round gets interesting. The Bears have 2 high picks here, the 3rd pick in the second round and the 5th pick in the second round. Now, they can address 2 of their biggest needs on the defensive side of the ball. And I mentioned that they already kind of did that with adding Grady Jarrett. I think Tykein Williams here is a really good addition to this Bears defense, who struggled to stop the run consistently last year. He is a pure run stuffer. He doesn't bring much in terms of pass rushing consistently yet in his career, but he's a great run stopper. And I think in the second round, adding a guy like this to mix in on early downs as a rookie and potentially develop behind Grady Jarrett, who has been a very good pro, is a great move for the Chicago Bears. So I think adding him in the second round is solid for them. And then I get to Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. I think this is probably the best value for the Bears. I mentioned Malachi Starks as a potential option at safety in the first round. I think Watts is a better value in the second round. Was amazing last year at Notre Dame. Wasn't necessarily as good his first 2 years in his career, but he is an over-the-top safety. Allowed a 30.1 passer rating when targeted last year. He had 6 interceptions. I mean, he was unreal. He was as good as it comes, and I think getting him on the back end in Chicago, playing that free safety role alongside Jaquan Brisker, would be a great fit for the Chicago Bears. Now you get into the middle rounds of this draft for round 3. I think it becomes interesting with what the Bears try to establish here. They do need another tight end. They definitely need some more offensive linemen to potentially mix in there. You potentially want an edge rusher as well, maybe some cornerback help. I think the guy that I'm really looking at here is Elijah Roberts here from SMU. Roberts is a very sneaky prospect here in the 3rd round who had produced very good at a smaller school in SMU, despite playing some pretty good competition here, where he had some of his best games. You got Duke here with an 87.8 grade. You have TCU with a 91.1, BYU with a 90. You know, he was a very good player in college, had 21 sacks over the last 2 seasons. So I think getting him in the 3rd round, adding him to that pass rusher mix with Dio and Montez Sweat would be a great fit for the Chicago Bears. I think we're going to have a big break here until round 5 for the Bears. And this is where it gets even harder to predict where they're going to go. You have a guy like Luke Kandra, who basically is one of my favorite picks in the 5th round here to give the Bears more guard depth. We know they established that with Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney, but with both those guys being older veterans, I don't hate the pick. I think Kandra as an offensive lineman in the Bears mix for some depth is a solid move for them considering that. And then we move on here, going through and taking a look at who we got here. I think the Bears do really want to establish another interior linebacker this offseason. They lost Sanborn in free agency, so I think going through here, Karen Reed, decent production at the Utah Utes. And I think one of the things that's interesting for me is the low coverage grade, which is definitely concerning. But in the 7th round, right, you're not able to pick some of your best overall players. So I think getting him there, solid pick, gives them another linebacker to mess with, potentially a solid rotational piece for them there. And then you kind of scroll through here. One of the guys that I really liked, sorry, not him. One of the guys I did really like here in the 7th round originally when doing this was Clay Webb, but the draft shook out differently. I think he's a solid guard that they could pick out there as well. And then you have Mondin here from Georgia, another linebacker fit potentially for the Bears. I think you take Hunter Wohler here, pretty good safety. Tested really well athletically. Getting another safety there is definitely not a bad thing for the Bears. Ultimately, the Bears get their guys, and I think in this mock draft, they gave me an F for Hampton. But, I mean, listen, you've seen the you've seen a Ben Johnson led offense reach for a running back in the 1st round, and they wound up drafting Jahmyr Gibbs early, and everybody was like, oh, why are the Lions doing that? Listen, it worked out very well. Nobody's questioning them at this point. I think if the Bears wind up jumping and getting a running back in Ben Johnson's scheme, it's going to work out very well. All right, guys, there it is. The official draft for the Chicago Bears in 2025. You had a guy like Hampton at running back. You had a defensive lineman that absolutely is going to clog up the middle. You had Watts at safety. Those are 3 picks in the first 3 rounds that absolutely put the Bears on a great trajectory for 2025. What do you guys think? Can the Chicago Bears improve from this mock draft and these players on their roster in 2025? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you're interested in more Blitz Sports Media content, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys next time.